Hello everyone, Lady Joyful here from the Joyful Soul Creates. Today I have a 10 cards 1 release video for you with the Heffy Doodle Kickstarted release, which contains 5 stamp sets. 4 are these animals, and then there's one for making interactive cards. My first card is using the Unbearable Without You stamp set. I have pre-coloured and fussy cut all my images. I'm going to stamp out the thought bubbles from the same stamp set, as well as a sentiment which says, "I love you so much that it's unbearable." I will stamp these all with my favourite thing, black licorice hybrid ink. I'm using my MISTI just to make sure I can get everything positioned exactly where I want it, and this will also allow me to double stamp all the images and the sentiment to get a nice crisp impression. Once those are stamped, I added the heart that comes in the same stamp set, and I will stamp that using Altenew ruby red, I believe it is. Yes, ruby red ink into the centre of the largest thought bubble. I will then adhere the bear. I'm going to use double-sided tape to adhere the bear to pop him up a bit on the card base and give him plenty of volume. I'm just using odds and ends of tape. And then I will remove the backing and press him into place on the card base just below the thought bubble. I'm using my reverse tweezers to help me get it properly positioned. And that's it for card number 1. Card number 2 uses the Happy Snappy Crocs stamp set. I'm going to use one of the crocodiles from the set, as well as some of the words that are in it. I was going to do this all directly on the card base, but partway through the stamping I discovered I'd put it into my MISTI upside down, so I ended up trimming it to panel a bit later. So I will start by stamping the sentiment, "I love your smile," using the My Favourite Things black ink again, just below where I want to attach the crocodile. And then I am making a pattern using the Happy word from the same stamp set and some green Altenew ink. I can't remember which colour green this was, but I will have all the information on my blog, which is linked down below. I did start off using my MISTI to stamp this, but it was just quicker and easier to switch to using an acrylic block, so that's what I ended up doing. And I every now and then brought the crocodile back just to measure and make sure I was creating a large enough space with my stamping, as I wanted the crocodile to fit completely within the bounds of the words, which he now does. So I will then trim the panel down. I cut it away from being a card base, and I will trim it down to be slightly smaller than the card base, and this actually allowed me to make sure the happy words were actually completely centered, because as I'd done them by hand they were slightly off center. So by trimming down the panel I was able to fix that. I used my the wire guide in my paper trimmer actually to help me measure exactly how much space I needed either side before I then trimmed it down. And then I'm going to put foam tape on the back of the crocodile and also on the back of the panel, so they will both be popped up to give some dimension to the card. I tend to use a lot of foam tape on the back of my cards. I will cover the whole panel, as I want it to be nice and sturdy and not get crushed if I would be sending this out in the post. And again, using odds and ends of the foam tape on the crocodile. I don't want him to get crushed either, and I'll press him into place on top of the happy words. And that card is finished. For card number 3, I'm going to use the Elephant of Surprise stamp set. This time I'm making a side fold card. This is actually my quickest card. It's a very cast card. I'm going to use the elephant and have it holding a little mirror, and I will stamp the sentiment that says, "When you look this good, age is irrelevant," which is a fun punny stamp set, and I thought it matched well with the elephant holding onto the little mirror. Again, I'm going to use my MISTI to line up the stamps and make sure the sentiments are straight, and I will use the MFT ink to stamp the sentiments. And I slightly cut into the curl of the elephant's trunk to make sure I could slip the mirror into the elephant's trunk to make it look as though the elephant is holding on to the mirror, as you can see here. I actually probably could have cut it a bit more than I did, but it works well enough. And then I used my glue pen, I didn't show it, I used my glue pen to glue the mirror onto the elephant, and then added foam tape all over the back of the mirror and the elephant. And I'm again using my tweezers to attach the elephant to the card base. And as a final touch, I added some wink of Stella to the glass on the mirror, just to give it a little bit of shimmer and sparkle. I don't think I showed that. Oh yes, here I am showing it now. And that completes card number 3. For card number 4, I went back to the Unbearable Without You stamp set, and I will be using the sitting bear and also the little jar, which I had pre-stamped, coloured and fussy cut. I'm just going to stamp the word snacks onto the jar as well, and then I will add some more stamping directly onto my card base. First, I'm going to carefully use my craft knife to cut around the bear's hands so that I can slip in the one of the biscuits that I'd already coloured, which is the one that looks like it's had a little bite taken out of it. So I'll slide that in and push it into place. I just have to cut around a little bit more, just to make sure I can get it positioned how I wanted it. I don't think I was pressing quite hard enough with my craft knife when I was doing it, but I got there eventually. Had to give it a bit of a wiggle to lift the hands up so that I could slide the biscuit in, which I will be doing any moment now. There we go. Slide that into place so that it looks like he's holding it and having a good chew. And then I spent a little while fiddling around trying to decide exactly what I wanted to do with the layout. Was considering using some of the images that I'd already coloured, but I decided I would stamp onto my card base and create a little scene. This stamp is from the Happy Snappy Crocs set and is actually a tray, but I wanted to use it to be like a little rug for the bear to sit on. So that's what I did. I stamped it out and then I coloured it in with my alcohol markers. Just very simple colouring because it's going to be mostly hidden beneath the bear anyway, so it didn't need to be anything fancy. I'll use a red and a blue, and these colours are actually colours I'd used previously on colouring some of the other images I had done when preparing for this video. I'm trying to be fairly consistent with what colours I use, so here I'll go in with the blue. and I'm only using one of each colour rather than adding shading because I wanted to keep it simple. So now I'm going to start stamping in my snacks. I'm starting with the biscuit that looks like it's on its side, and I will stamp some to appear to be behind the snack jar, and then I will do some more to look as though they are in front of the snack jar. I would have kind of overlapped them a bit, but I was trying to be time efficient as I had so many cards to make, so I didn't want to cut out any masks, so I just was careful to avoid them overlapping. Then I bought in the sweets or candy stamps from the Adorable Lions stamp set, and stamped them on the other side of the rug. I will also add in the lollipop from the same stamps just to fill out that area. And I will also use the some of the nut stamps from the Elephant of Surprise stamp set to fill it in front. I'm going to use the sentiment, I can barely eat without you. I just thought that was very funny with him being surrounded by food. This time I'm going to adhere my little animal flat to the card base. I'm using tape runner for that. And that completes this card. Card number 5 uses the Happy Snappy Crocs stamp set again, but this time I decided I would make a card that doesn't have any of the animals on. So I am going to use the tray, which I used as a rug in the last card, if you remember, and also the cheese, the wine bottle and the wine glass. I'm going to just make a little arrangement of them. I'll do some masking and stamping. So first I'm going to stamp the cheese and I will mask that off. I'll stamp it again onto some post-it tape, fussy cut it out to create my mask, and I will apply that over the image that I had stamped onto the card base. And I did the same with the bottle of wine and the wine glass, and then I stamped on the tray, or I suppose it could be a plate. And then I will carefully, first I'm going to stamp sentiment, which will say, "Hope you have a cheesy day." And I also use the exclamation mark, which comes in that same Happy Snappy Crocs set. And again I'm using my MISTI and the MFT Black Licorice ink. Then I will remove my masks from the images and reveal the little arrangement that I've created, and then I will go and off camera colour them in with my alcohol markers, and that's that card completed. I used the Adorable Lions stamp set for my next card, which is card number 6. I'm again going for a side fold card, and I will use the lioness and the sitting lion, which I had pre-stamped, coloured and cut, and I will stamp a sentiment to go below them. The sentiment says, "You did it, congratulations." And I'm also going to use a balloon from the same stamp set. I found it easier to stamp the string without using my MISTI. I coloured that in with my alcohol markers, and then I'm adhering the lines flat to the card base and adding some Wink of Stella for the shimmer on the balloon. And that's that card completed. That was a very quick card, that one. My next card is a lot more involved. I'm using the Elephant of Surprise stamp set again, and the Interactively Yours stamp set as well. And I'm going to make a pop-up slider card. I created the large cake myself just with some pieces of brown card which I trimmed down and curved the top corners with my corner chomper, and I used one of my darkest brown alcohol marker to add the icing, which I also went over with Wink of Stella to give it some shimmer. This card took me quite a long time to make, and I cut out a lot of the process because I didn't use enough brain power on this, and I stuck everything down and then had to peel it all apart again because it wasn't working properly, and it was just a bit of a disaster, but it worked out in the end. I've adhered the little cake onto the elephant's head, and I'm putting some foam on the bottom of my tab behind the elephant, and I will add my sentiment panel on top of that so that when they slide, the sentiment panel and the elephant come up together. And I'm going to adhere the top part of the cake to the card base first. This has just one layer of foam tape or foam strips, so I will adhere that into place, and then using my tweezers to help me get it onto the card base, and I'll press that into place. Then I used 2 layers of the foam strips on the second. First I'm going to add some acetate behind to cover the area between the little cake and the elephant to make it more stable because it was feeling a bit wobbly. I used 2 layers of foam strips behind the middle layer of cake and 3 behind the bottom. And I also created a channel to help the slider part slide properly. And I'm adding a sentiment, sorry I forgot, but now you get the, which will be completed when the cake is pulled up. And I also used Interactively Yours to add a little arrow and pull me so that the recipient knows to pull up the stamp to get the completed effect. Card number 8 is another interactive card, this time using the Adorable Lions stamp set and a sentiment from Interactively Yours, you spin me right round baby. Seemed very appropriate for the card I wanted to make, so I die cut 2 circles from the centre of the card panel, and I'll pop the middle circle with the sentiment up using the cutout frame part as a guide. I die cut a small circle which I put a square of foam tape onto, that will be my slider portion, and then I'm putting foam tape onto the main panel, being sure that the circle that the lion will be attached to has plenty of space to move around so that it won't get stuck. But I also want to make sure the panel is well supported so that it doesn't get crushed. So it's about finding the right balance. And I used double layers of foam tape for this. Then I will stick the panel into place, remove the backing tape from the foam square on the little circle, and stick the lion on, and give it a spin. And that completes that card. For card number 9, I made a party scene using animals from all 4 of the stamp sets. I kind of made simple masks. They're not sticky masks, they're just plain paper. I made them ahead of time so that I could play around with my layout, and once I was happy with it I started stamping the characters onto the card base and then put the masks over them. I used my MISTI magnets to hold them in place. It would have been easier to make these sticky, to be honest, but I didn't, even though I could have done. And I'm also going to add a whole bunch of balloons. First I'm going to add the mouth to the bear. There are 3 different mouths that can be added to him, and I thought the smiley one was appropriate. Then I'll add a whole bunch of balloons into the background. There's this balloon is from the Adorable Lions, and the balloon with the string is from Elephant Surprise. I just pressed the masks into place as and where I needed them. some of the balloon impressions weren't perfect, but I will fix those with my pen later. I took it off screen and coloured it all in. And now I'm just adding Happy Birthday sentiment, which is in the Happy Snappy Crocs stamp set. Stamping it twice to give a crisp impression. I'm adding in strings with my Sharpie, and I will also darken up some of the lines where they didn't stamp quite properly. And then I'll go over all of the balloons with my Wink of Stella clear shimmer pen, and I will also go over the little birthday present with that as well, which finishes that card. My final card uses the Lion stamp set again, and this stamp, I believe it's actually meant to be a marker. It's in the Unbearable Without You stamp set, but when I saw it I imagined it as a magic wand, so that's what I coloured it as. I created myself a mask, and I'm doing some ink blending with Spice Marmalade Distress ink within the area that I've masked off. I'm trying to keep it quite light so it's more of a yellow tone than orange, and just keep working at it and building up the colour until I am happy with it. And then I will add some splatters of water just to activate the ink. I don't want to leave it on too long, as this card is not watercolour card. I stamp in the star stamp from Interactively Yours all over the ink blended background, spacing them out a bit more as I get further away from where the wand will be. And once I'm happy with the stamping of the stars, I will remove my mask, and where the water got on the glue that I had put on the mask to make it sticky there, it has left some residue on my card base, but I have an adhesive eraser that I can use just to remove that, which took it off even better than I hoped actually. So I removed all that. Then I will adhere the wand to my lion's hand just using my glue pen, just for a little dot of it, and then I will use my tape runner to adhere the lion and the wand flat to the card base. And I'm going to use a sentiment from Interactively Yours which says, "You light up my life," which I thought was a nice sentiment to go with the look of this card. And I believe I stamp it down 3 times to get a nice crisp impression, which completes my final card. There are more pictures on my blog, and there's a link to that below. So thank you for watching, and I will see you again in the next video. Bye!